I'm Grayson, 34 years old, living in a small, modest house in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The brick walls are faded with time. The wooden fence is one I built with my own hands last summer, and every autumn the streets outside glow gold with fallen leaves. I work as a plumber, a job that is neither glamorous nor particularly respected, but it pays the bills and leaves me comfortable enough to save a little for rainy days. To the outside world, I probably look like a simple man, flannel shirts, muddy work boots, and an old pickup truck parked in the driveway. And I don't mind that image. I like my quiet life, my morning black coffee, my evenings tinkering with the truck and the rhythm of fixing leaky pipes and clogged drains. What no one, not even my parents or my younger brother Carter, knows is that over the past 10 years, I have quietly built an investment account worth millions of dollars. Only one person in the world knows that secret. Tracy, a financial advisor I met years ago who taught me about patient investing. Thanksgiving has always been my favorite holiday, not because of the food, but because of family. I imagined the laughter around the table, my mom bustling with the turkey, my dad retelling baseball stories, and Carter always the center of attention holding court with his latest tales. That's what I pictured as I wrapped gifts in my living room, one crisp autumn evening, a wool scarf for Mom and a book about baseball history for Dad. But when I called to confirm plans, my mother's hesitant voice broke that dream. "This year maybe you don't need to come," she said softly. My brother Carter, 5 years younger and always their golden child, wanted the dinner to be perfect for his new girlfriend. Mom worried that my presence, my flannel shirts and muddy boots might not fit the picture he was trying to paint. I hung up after muttering, "I understand," though my chest felt hollow. I sat staring at the wrapped gifts, the warm lamplight pressing against the room that suddenly felt unbearably cold. I wasn't angry, not exactly, just erased as though I had never been part of the family I cherished. Carter had always been the star, handsome and charming, a successful lawyer who lived in a luxurious apartment and drove a BMW. My parents beamed at every achievement of his, while my path, choosing plumbing over college living, simply was seen as a disappointment. What they never knew was that with Tracy's guidance, I had invested carefully in index funds, tech stocks, and a few small properties, slowly building a fortune while living modestly. Carter's new girlfriend was no stranger to me. From the photos he posted online, I instantly recognized her, Tracy. The same Tracy who once sat with me in a small office break room explaining compound interest with shining eyes. She had been my advisor, the only person who knew the truth about my investments. I asked her by text to keep it quiet, and she agreed. But now on Thanksgiving night, excluded from the family I once longed for, I wondered if she would tell them anything. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Tracy, her voice low and heavy. "I broke your promise," she admitted. At Carter's dinner, when my family mocked me, when my brother called me a loser, when my mother nodded along, when my father stayed silent, she couldn't take it. She told them everything. She stood up in the middle of dinner and declared that I had built $1 million portfolio through patience and intelligence, that I didn't need to brag like Carter because I knew my own worth. She said she was ashamed to sit there and hear them belittle me. Carter dropped his glass in shock. My parents stared, and then she walked out. Her words both stunned and relieved me. My secret was out, but so was the truth of who I really was. "They'll come to you now," Tracy warned. "Not because they're sorry, but because they know you have money." I didn't want to believe her, but she was right. Just days later, Carter's BMW pulled into my driveway with my parents beside him. They smiled too warmly, spoke too gently, and within minutes Carter was suggesting I invest with him in some grand project. My parents chimed in, suddenly proud of me, suddenly eager for family unity. But it was clear. They weren't there to apologize or to love me for who I was. They were there for what they thought I could give. And for the first time in my life, I said no. When I refused Carter's offer to work together and told my parents I couldn't keep being the family's afterthought, the room fell silent. My mother clutched a tissue, whispering that she was only trying to protect Carter's special night. My father muttered that I was stubborn. Carter, flushed with anger, jabbed a finger at me and snarled, "You'll regret this day, Grayson. You think you've won, but you're just isolating yourself." Then they left their footsteps echoing down the hall as the BMW engine roared and faded into the distance. I sat on the sofa, staring at the unopened gift box on the table, and for the first time in years, I felt both broken and strangely free. The days that followed were quiet. I poured myself into work, patching pipes and checking water systems across Pittsburgh, the steady rhythm helping me forget the sting of rejection. But every night when I returned to my modest home, the silence pressed down again. I kept replaying Tracy's call at her voice trembling as she described my family mocking me on Thanksgiving. The people I loved most had laughed at me, called me an embarrassment, erased me. And now, after Tracy's truth-telling, they only came back because they smelled money. Then one evening my phone buzzed. Tracy's voice, softer than before, filled the line. "Are you okay? Carter told me he and your parents went to see you." I admitted they had come not to apologize, but to pitch schemes. She sighed, and I pictured her shaking her head, her brown hair swaying the way it always had when she grew frustrated. "I'm not surprised," she said. Then she added words I didn't expect. "I broke up with Carter." I froze. "When? Why?" "Yesterday," she replied with a laugh edged in exhaustion. "I couldn't keep dating someone who only cared about showing off. He didn't apologize, didn't feel remorse for what he said about you. And I realized I didn't want that kind of man in my life." Her words left me silent, not because I doubted them, but because of the truth in them. Carter was the man my parents idolized, but he was hollow inside. Tracy had seen it too. "Are you sure?" I asked. "A lot of women would want his lifestyle." She laughed again, this time warmly. "Grayson, I'm a financial advisor. I see men like Carter all the time. Flashy but drowning in debt. You're different. You're real." Her words sank deep into me. For the first time, I felt seen, not for my money, not for my job title, but for who I was. Before I could find the right response, she said, "Meet me tomorrow. Coffee shop on Forbes. No talk about stocks. Just us." The next afternoon, I walked into that small cafe and saw her already there, latte in hand, wearing a simple gray sweater. Her smile lit up the room. We talked for hours, first about sandwiches, then about dreams. She wanted to start her own advisory firm to help ordinary people, not just the wealthy. I told her about the nights I spent hunched over investment books, about the loneliness of having no one in my family who understood. And somewhere between the laughter and the quiet pauses, something shifted. We began seeing each other often, strolling through parks, sitting in bookstores, grabbing takeout instead of dressing up for fancy restaurants. One evening by the Allegheny River, she reached for my hand. "I don't know where this is going," she said softly, "but I like being with you. You make me feel safe." I looked at her, really looked, and for once I didn't think of Carter or my parents. I thought only of her. But peace never lasts long when Carter's involved. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed in the middle of a job. His voice exploded on the line, venomous. "You stole my girlfriend, you worthless plumber. Who do you think you are?" I tried to keep calm. "Carter, she broke up with you. I didn't steal anyone." "Don't play innocent," he screamed. "I saw the pictures, coffee shops, parks. You did this to ruin me. You've always been jealous." "No, Carter," I said evenly. "I never wanted your life. Tracy and I just connected. She didn't leave you because of me. She left you because of you." He laughed, bitter and mocking. "Oh, I get it. You used your money, didn't you? Thought you could buy her. But you're still just a plumber in a dumpy house. She'll get bored." His words cut, but they didn't break me. If you think money is the only thing that keeps people around, that's your problem, not mine. Leave her alone. He slammed the line dead, but he wasn't finished. Soon after, my mother called, her voice tearful. Grayson, how could you betray your brother? Carter says you stole the woman he loves. He says you ruined his life. You're his older brother. Make it right. Tell Tracy to go back to him. We need this family whole again. I laughed, bitter and exhausted. Mom, I didn't steal anyone. And for once, could you ask me the truth instead of swallowing whatever Carter tells you? I won't sacrifice my happiness to clean up his mess. I'm done. I hung up, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. Carter didn't stop after that call. If anything, my refusal fueled him. He began spreading lies across social media, painting me as a traitor who had seduced his girlfriend to get revenge. He posted vague messages about backstabbing brothers, whispered to mutual friends that I was obsessed with ruining him. A few acquaintances asked me about it, but I didn't bother to respond. Tracy knew the truth, and so did I, and that was enough. Still, the weight of his accusations pressed on me during quiet nights. Was I truly worthy of her, or was Carter right in some twisted way that I had taken something from him? One evening I confessed my doubts to Tracy. We sat together on my old sofa, the hum of the table lamp filling the silence. Maybe I should step back, I murmured. Maybe it would calm things down. I don't want you dragged into this mess. She took my hand firmly, her eyes blazing with conviction. Don't let Carter guilt you for daring to live your own life. You haven't done anything wrong, Grayson. I chose you, not him. Her words were a balm I hadn't known I needed. I pulled her close, and in that moment I promised myself I wouldn't let Carter poison what we had. Time passed. Slowly, the noise faded. Carter stopped his online rants, maybe because people stopped paying attention, maybe because even he realized his stories were wearing thin. My parents, though, remained distant. Calls grew less frequent, visits non-existent. They seemed to hope the storm would pass if they ignored it. For once, I didn't chase them. For once, I let them go. A year later, I stood in front of a mirror in the small room of an old church, smoothing a simple gray suit. My reflection stared back, not flashy, not glamorous, but at peace. Today was my wedding day. Tracy had walked into my life years ago as my advisor, then again as my brother's girlfriend. And somehow, through pain and betrayal, she had become the woman I loved. We planned a small ceremony just as we wanted. The church glowed with golden string lights and pine branches that filled the air with a gentle fragrance. Pots of white daisies Tracy had picked from a farmer's market lined the aisle. There was no orchestra, no luxury venue, just friends, a few colleagues, and love. Joe, my co-worker who'd spent countless days beside me fixing pipes, was there. Sarah, my high school friend who always teased my fashion sense, smiled from the pew. And Tracy's colleagues, surprised as always that a plumber knew more about stocks than many professionals, clapped me on the back in congratulations. I had sent invitations to my parents and to Carter. Not because I expected them to come, but because I wanted to close the door completely. Unsurprisingly, the 3 chairs I'd reserved for them sat empty. Still, as the ceremony began, I glanced at those chairs, felt the pang of regret, and then let it go. When Tracy walked in, my breath caught. She wore a simple ivory dress that fell just below her knees, her brown hair loose with a pearl clip. She didn't need glittering jewelry or heavy makeup. She was beautiful because she was herself, authentic, strong, radiant. She took my hand and the world narrowed to just us. The priest read the vows, though I barely heard the words. When it was my turn, I held her hands tightly and spoke from the heart. Tracy, you saw me when no one else did. You reminded me I was enough not because of money or success, but because of who I am. I can't promise the world, but I promise everything I have, my love, my respect, and a life we'll build together. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she replied, her voice steady. Grayson, You taught me that happiness isn't in flashy things, but in real moments. I choose you not for who you are on paper, but because you're the best man I've ever known. I promise to stand by you no matter what." We exchanged simple silver bands, no gemstones, just promises. When the priest declared us husband and wife, I kissed her to the sound of applause. For a fleeting moment, I looked at the empty chairs again, felt the old ache rise, and then felt it dissolve as Tracy squeezed my hand and whispered, "You okay?" I smiled, better than ever. After the wedding, Tracy and I moved into a modest 2-story home on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. It wasn't a mansion or a sprawling estate, just a comfortable place with a backyard large enough for a few apple trees like the ones I remembered from childhood. She brewed coffee in the mornings while I headed out in my old pickup truck toolbox rattling in the back. Life didn't suddenly become glamorous, but it felt whole. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of my family's disapproval. Instead, I was building something of my own. Work stayed the same, leaky pipes, water systems, grateful clients, pressing cold glasses of water into my hands. But now each evening, I returned to a home that glowed with more than lamplight. Tracy's laughter filled the rooms, her presence turning quiet spaces into warm ones. I kept investing, still following the patient, steady path she once taught me, but the numbers in my account mattered less. What mattered was us, our dinners at the small kitchen table, our walks along the Allegheny River, our plans for the future. Of course, shadows lingered. Carter didn't reach out, though. Now and then I heard his name whispered in town, stories of debts piling, cases at the firm not going his way. My parents remained silent, too. The last real conversation we'd had was the day they came to my house asking about money. I had drawn a line and they hadn't crossed it again. Sometimes late at night, I wondered if I should have tried harder, if I should have forgiven them and opened the door again. But then I remembered Mom's words on that Thanksgiving call. "Maybe you don't need to come," and the way she nodded as Carter mocked me. Regret flickered, but peace followed. Tracy helped me see things clearly. "Family isn't always who you're born into," she said one evening as we sat on the porch watching the sunset. "It's the people who stand by you, who see you, who choose you." She was right. For years I had bent myself into knots trying to earn a place in my parents' and brothers' hearts. But love isn't earned by wealth or success or quiet endurance. It's given freely, or it isn't love at all. Seasons passed. The apple trees in our yard sprouted blossoms in spring, shaded us in summer, and scattered golden leaves in autumn. Every Thanksgiving, Tracy and I cooked our own meal, sometimes inviting friends, sometimes keeping it just the two of us. There was no fancy table setting, no perfect image for social media, but laughter filled our dining room, and that was enough. I never forgot the empty chairs at our wedding, but I also never let them define me again. One day, as I watched Tracy in the kitchen brewing coffee, I thought about the path that had brought me here. The boy who grew up in hand-me-down, the young man told he had chosen the wrong path, the plumber mocked as a loser. He had become the man standing in a quiet home, filled with love and peace. Not because he had millions in an investment account, but because he had learned something far more valuable. Happiness doesn't come from the approval of others. It comes from living true to yourself, from choosing people who see your worth without conditions, from finding peace in the simple things like the smell of coffee, the warmth of laughter, the sight of apple blossoms dancing in the breeze. I no longer wished to prove myself to Carter or to my parents or to anyone. I didn't need to. I had built a life of my own, and it was more than enough. So if you're listening to my story, let me leave you with this. Sometimes the family we long for may never truly see us, but that doesn't mean we are alone. It means we must build the family we deserve with love, respect, and people who choose us for who we are. If this story touched, you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. for more real stories that remind us of the strength in living true to ourselves. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below about what family means to you.